Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Investor Podcast. I'm always excited to be here, but I'm triple, quadruple excited today because I have someone here that you guys are about to be blown away by. She just got back from Egypt as well. So it's like if she wasn't already amazing, then okay, we've got that extra Egypt sparkle that's coming towards you. But she's also she's become a friend. And I met her actually when I went to Nashville not too long ago, and I was interviewed on someone else's podcast, and Danielle was being interviewed, and it just ended up being this magical experience whereby each of us were sitting at dinner and going, wow, this is a lifelong connection and friendship that we felt among us, about 10 of us. And I still feel the vibration of that conversation and that friendship. And it's almost like it's timeless, you know? And anyway, so this is Danielle Amos, and she is host of the Mystic Millionaire podcast. And she also has a book, the same name. And she is very much in the understanding of the frequencies and the laws. And she has studied with Bob Proctor, and then she has done her own work and her own travels and her own experiences of life. And she is extremely kind and empathetic, and she's bringing all that here for you. So thank you, Danielle.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, absolutely. I know this is so exciting. So, we have so many things to choose from, but what we did before this is we kind of like went through a few things that almost like what are people wanting to hear versus also like just what are they drawing in, I guess is a better way that I kind of phrase it. And I know um, a lot of people are wanting the experiences in life. You know, they're wanting to really be their authentic selves, to step forward, to have the experiences, and to also call in money at the same time. So, given either your recent experience or just experiences in general, like if someone were to say to you, like, how do I do that? How do I like almost it's like a trifecta? What
Mm.
would you say to them?
Yeah, well, first of all, believing that you can have it all.
Yeah,
So the experiences and the money and the love,
yeah.
it's not this or that. Really important because I believe that we've been conditioned to believe that we've got to sacrifice one for the other, and it's not true. That was just a programming, and it's time to let go of that. The second is to become very clear on what it is that you desire and to understand that those desires that you have were given to you by God, by your higher self, because it is for you. And to allow
Mhm.
yourself to really connect with that and dream and have the courage to admit what you want. I don't think that a lot of people actually do that out there in the world. They sit and maybe think about what they desire, but in a very vague way. Like they'll say, I want to be financially free. Well, what does that even mean? And why
Mm.
do you want to be financially free? Because what that means for Jane is something that it's different for Sally. It's
Mm-hmm.
really define that for yourself and take the time to think and do the real thinking, not just the thinking that's surface level, but the thinking that gets you emotional. And
Can you talk a little bit more about the real thinking?
yeah, well, there's surface level thinking like, what are you going to have for dinner tonight? Or what are you wearing today? And what's happening next in your schedule? And that's the thinking that most of us do all day long. And everything else is just autopilot. We have a subconscious mind, and that subconscious mind is running the show 97% of the time. But it's our conscious mind that actually takes something to activate. And for most people, that's only 3% of their life is conscious thinking.
Mm.
And so then consciously actually asking yourself, what do I want? And how would that feel? And when you think about what you want, and it's like such an easy question, right? But people will say, like, I want to be happy. Okay, but define that. I want to be financially free. Like I was saying, define that.
Mm-hmm.
And then allow yourself to become emotional about it. Because if you leave the thinking in your conscious mind only, then nothing will happen. And I know your audience is quite familiar with manifestation, but this is a huge missing out there is people think then that they can think, okay, I want to be financially free, but they never get emotionally involved with the
Mm.
specifics behind that. And so they might say, okay, well, I want to fly in a private jet or I want to own a yacht. And they say that and they might tell other people they want it, but it stays in their conscious mind and nothing happens. There's a law of transmutation of perpetual energy, and this is the law of manifestation. And the manifestation will never happen if it's only a conscious thought. And so this is a mistake
Mm.
most people make. They keep it in their conscious mind and they say it flippantly. Yeah, I want one day I'm going to be a millionaire. One day I'm going to fly in a private jet. And I believe it's one of the ways that a human being protects themselves and doesn't become emotionally involved, because what happens then if you don't do it? But the truth is that any idea you plant in your subconscious mind with emotion must move into form by law. And so
Mm.
that's the law. It's like planting a seed in a garden by law.
Wow,
So
this
you've got to allow yourself to get emotionally involved with it and do not like, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when.
mm. This is fascinating because, what you're saying, it also comes at a time where we are talking a lot about nervous system regulation, or
Mm,
even like women get emotional type of thing, and so what you're saying is like the emotions are the power, yet, and I think it's interesting that you
mm.
said that we're kind of afraid of like what is that more powerful side of us. uh
Well, the feeling is the secret. Neville Goddard has a book about this.
yeah.
So,
Hmm.
and here's the thing, isn't it interesting that women, and the feminine have been
Hmm.
told like we're too emotional.
That's right,
That's
exactly.
the superpower.
Right.
Perhaps let's just consider that perhaps that's part of keeping us in the matrix. That's part of us keeping us stuck and low and a low vibration. But what you want to understand is that like feeling actually is what locks it in to the subconscious
Mm,
mind. And then
mm,
understanding the power of feeling, because there's a law of vibration, and the way that you feel is the way that your body's operating in a vibrational state and a frequency. And that's exactly what you're tracking into your life. But until we understand that you have complete control over that, you might assume you don't, right? And you might
mm-hmm,
just like assume, like, I feel the way that I feel. And it's like I get what I get and I don't get upset. But the truth is, you have control, you have full responsibility over your life. And it starts with the way you think and then the way that you're feeling.
mm. Yeah. So if someone was feeling, you use the example like $1 million. So let's say someone, they feel the $1 million. They feel how they would be, or even act or anything. They're just really embodying the feeling of already having the $1 million, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Uh, then something comes along and that, swipes them away from it. Like they get a $200,000 tax bill.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Then, yeah, exactly. What happens then? Like, take us to that moment.
Well, this is a really important point because here's the thing, people will say they want to be a millionaire, they want the $1 million. And are they prepared to hold the opposite? You've got to be able to hold the duality of the million.
Go further with that.
Yeah, well, this is the law of opposites or law of polarity. And I could talk about the laws all day long. So we'll bring this one in. But the law of polarity states that everything is the one thing. So I'm going to use this crystal as an example. And it's basically like if you want prosperity or the $1 million, what you want to understand is that the opposite of that, which is like poverty or minus a million, exists, and they're the same thing, just different degrees or different
Mm,
frequencies of the same thing. So let's bring it back to a really easy way to understand it, because with the million, it's a little bit harder for our mind to wrap around this idea of that it's the same. But let's think about light. What's the opposite of light? Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, there's no such thing as darkness.
Mm-hmm.
There's only light. And so the stick or this crystal would be represent light and then lack of light.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's varying degrees of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Varying shades. And so when you're in a dark room, you don't say turn off the darkness, you say turn on the light.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing for prosperity. So there's no such thing as poverty. Our natural state is prosperity and abundance. And
Mm-hmm.
so we don't get rid of lack and limitation. This is a big missing, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
in big misunderstanding. We actually turn on the prosperity, which is our natural state. And so when you call in the $1 million, if that's your goal, that's your desire, what you want to understand is that we live in a 3D world, in a physical realm, that the law of polarity is very much present up, down, hot, cold. And we need the opposite to understand the feeling. So you wouldn't know what hot is if you didn't know what cold is. You wouldn't know what up is if you didn't know what down was. So, same thing, you're calling in the $1 million, and then the universe has to send you something first before the money comes, before there's evidence. You must experience lack. It's by law because it
Mm-hmm.
has to create the context for you to experience prosperity. So if you look back in at any point, Elizabeth, on your own journey, on the times when you were calling in more,
Mm-hmm.
notice how you have attracted something that will have you feel like the fear, if you, or the negative vibration of that thing. Might be love. And
Mm-hmm.
then something happens in the relationship that has you feel fear about that or hate, like a lack of love.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to create the environment or the context for you to be able to know what prosperity is. So, a great example, you said the $200,000 tax bill. Well, you're calling in millions, and then the $200,000 tax bill comes in. Your job is to practice staying in the frequency of prosperity and trusting and understanding the universal laws that your birthright is prosperity, your natural state is abundance. And so, even though the $200,000 tax bill, can you stay in the frequency of money when
Mm-hmm.
that's there? Now, here's the thing, it's easy to stay in the frequency of prosperity when the money's flowing. $10,000 client here, this, that's awesome. That's easy. No, and no one will have a problem with that. I promise you. But
Mm-hmm.
master, the master understands the laws and understands that this is part of, it's like almost like a wink from the universe. It's like the $200,000 tax bill, no problem. Money's infinite. My birthright is prosperity. My natural state is prosperity. This is showing me that the million's right around the corner. And as you become comfortable playing with hundreds of thousands drop into your realm very easily. If you get tight and worried when you get that bill, you'll have more things to worry about, and it just kinks your money hose right there. And it
Mm-hmm.
will take, and it's not like the millions won't drop in. It's just that it will take longer because you're in resistance to it. And so you got to slide yourself on that scale to the prosperity that you desire. And so if you think about it, I've got clients who are comfortable playing with hundreds, and you, in your work, of course you do. You've got clients who are comfortable playing and investing hundreds. They're going to get hundreds in return. Comfortable investing and playing with thousands, they'll get thousands. Comfortable playing with tens of thousands, they'll have tens of thousands on the other end, hundreds of thousands. So go to your edge and go beyond it. And logical people will tell you that that's risky. It's not risky when you understand the laws.
Mm. Yeah, so you're playing by different laws.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is fascinating. Thank you. So, I got a question. I read it this morning inside of the Spiritual Investor Club, and someone said, um, I have been investing a lot in my business and I haven't seen any returns. What I decided to
Yet.
do,
Yet.
right? What I decided to do was this month put less in my business and put a little bit more on me.
Mm.
So, what would you say to that scenario?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would use the law of relativity and say, what's a lot? So I would question that this person's invested a lot and say, what if you've just invested what is and neutralize it?
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's a lot, you're going to see it as a lot. Like you want to de-minimize and normalize that number. You've
Mm-hmm.
invested what you've invested, and then make sure that you are focusing on the return rather than the lack of return, because you're going to get what you are focused on. So if you keep looking for evidence that there's no return, that will be your experience and it will continue to be. But if you say, oh my goodness, I've invested X number of dollars and look, one like on my Instagram, one more
Mm-hmm.
like than I had yesterday, then you're using the law in your favor and creating a story that serves you. But if you say, hey, I've invested a lot of money and only one like on my Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't work. And so you really want
Yes.
to master your mindset. And then the second thing is I would want to know more about what your business is. And I would say that you are your business. So if you
Mm-hmm.
are investing in yourself, you're also investing in your business. And you're by investing in yourself, and this goes back to identity and self-image. We were talking a little bit before about offline that the importance of this is understanding that your self-worth will equal your net worth. You'll never outperform the image that you have of yourself, your self-image. So you investing in yourself is probably one of the best investments you'll ever make.
Yes. One of them being working with you, I would say, by the way, working
You
with the
are, and
people.
and
It's
working
like,
with you. It's like,
yeah.
anything
Yeah.
that puts you in a room with people who have the results that you desire.
Mm-hmm.
Get yourself,
Yeah.
pull yourself up a chair. Invest in
Yeah.
that. You're worth it. And then track that return.
You're right. Well, this kind of like ties in with something else that you and I were talking about because, here we are on, this talking about self-worth and what comes after that? Uh, Women, feminine energy, the patriarchy, all of that, right? Because you've got women out there rising in their power, in all areas of their lives. And they're just expanding to the point where I feel like they're expanding so much that it's almost like their container doesn't fit anymore. And they're looking at
Yeah.
their time and they're looking at their energy and they're looking at all these things and they're like, wait, none of this fits, right? But then without that piece of self-worth, which we all have to varying degrees, but I would say women, that's really, sort of a hot button issue. How is someone who is pulling through this feminine energy, a woman, all of that, and who's not feeling her own worth because she's still, even though she doesn't want this, and I have talked to so many women about this fascinates me, by the way, is women walk into a room and they actually think about whether people find them attractive or not. See, I
Mhm.
that's never entered my mind.
Mhm.
Not that I don't have other stuff, but like when I started hearing that, I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, well, you dress for men or you dress
Mhm.
for to look attractive or you did like, of course, I like feeling attractive, but
Mhm.
it's not the first thought. And so if it was, I think that I would sort of be maybe throttled down when I walked in the room a bit. I don't know if I would be like truly me. And so, how do women deal with this?
Yeah, there's a lot of comparison, isn't there? And I think another way that we've been programmed as women because is to compare ourselves and compete with each other. And there's a lot of sisterhood wounds that we are healing. I believe it's changing. But when you walk into a room and you start comparing yourself and wondering if others, men and women, find you attractive, I think um, it's we were taught to be like dress a certain way, be the pretty one, be polite, be sit in a like don't be too loud, don't ruffle any feathers, that's a program.
It
So of
is, but how do you
course,
get past it?
well, understanding first of all that it's a program, it's not yours. It's
Mhm.
something that you've been programmed by society and we all have. And that it's time to change the narrative. And the truth is, there's no such thing as competition. There's only creation. We are each creators of our own reality, our own body, our own image, all of that comes from within. And if there's anything that you'd like to change, you have the power to change that.
You know, it's interesting because we also like I would assume that a lot of people have gotten success from that too, though. They're
Totally.
they're beautiful and they're attractive, and so it's like a sword that they wield, and so then you get success from it, and you're like, maybe I don't want to put this sword down.
Mm. Yeah, and I don't know that necessarily you've got to put it down, but I think it's instead creating an outer image that's for you, not for anyone else. So
Mm,
deciding like how you want to show up in the world and how you'd like to be perceived by others, sure, but do it for yourself because this is you being your light and shining authentically as the truth of who and what you are. And so
yeah.
you're not doing it for anyone else and you're not doing it to compare. And the other thing I would say, like when you get in a room, this is something that I'm conscious of, and it's learned, to be honest, it wasn't natural for me, is to recognize, especially with women, the other women who inspire me, light me up, and notice those women that I'm attracted to and make sure that I go and talk to them and compliment them and,
Oh, that's great.
like,
That's
yeah, and
great.
leave them with an
Yeah.
impression of increase because the opposite is normal. Where we like, oh, we recognize a woman in the corner and she's dressed fabulously, and instead we judge, oh, I wonder, what those shoes are. And that's the natural
Hmm.
state for most women. They're like, and we even like, we assume this drives me nuts. We assume, I don't, I don't know if this happens in your community, but it's definitely happened to women in mine, especially when they've hit a certain status with money. But they've had people come up to them and ask them, like, who's bought their handbag? What
Oh,
they
wow. Yeah.
assume it's not their
Hmm.
success. And so then there's the
Yeah.
judgment, like, people are looking, no, what if she's just like freaking fabulous? And what
Yeah.
if we go and we recognize that and like beauty sees beauty, power sees power, and we stand equal power but different side by side. You and I met in that context. We saw each other's power, and that's why we resonated with each
Yes.
other so quickly.
Yes.
That's not the norm. That is an aware, conscious, healed human being, healed woman, really,
Mm.
that's in her power. And I
Wow.
believe that it's changing. I believe that that's a lot of the work. And as more and more women are waking up consciously, this is what we're finding. And we're coming together that we know we're better together. But I believe we were programmed to be competitive and to not want that because if the society keeps us apart, there's power in sisterhood. And I mean, let's go back to the fact that I was just in Egypt. This is, goddesses, priestesses work together to heal
Mm.
communities, to inspire the kings. The kings didn't have the intuitive power. They relied on the women who came together. But that power that we have together scares a lot of people, especially the men, especially this power, those in power.
Wow. You're so right. You're just so on point with this. And I'm just so grateful that you are out there kind of as a leader on the front line talking about this because like you have the embodiment both outside and inside of exactly what we're talking about, which is turn heads when you walk in the room, yet at the same time you realize you create your world, and now you're saying, well, I'm going to choose what I want, and maybe that's not the frequency that I want, because we know that everything connects with us on a frequency. Maybe you've turned heads, but maybe that's not the $1 million frequency. And you go, nothing wrong with that. I enjoyed that, but I'm not going to do that anymore. And you really, really stepped into something that I also find fascinating, which you said, you know, it's like almost like the women are bringing the intuitive power. And
Mm.
it's like, you know, and I don't have a deep understanding of this, although I've been having a lot of conversations lately about this, where there is a masculine container
Yeah.
and the feminine is like sort of it's basically set up so that the feminine can feel safe and protected, and
Totally.
power comes through the feminine. And this is something that I feel like at least a lot of my friends they're looking for in men, and they're feeling that it's happening already, but then they're running into walls
Yeah.
because they're going on dating apps, and then they come back and they're like, oh my God, giant waste of time. That's not that. And I also see the other side from men who are talking about this
Yeah.
now and
Yeah.
who are wanting to, because I mean, I'll just be honest about myself. Like, I I feel like I'm a bit of both, right? And I hear that quite a bit, is there's almost like and maybe you feel that, Danielle, maybe
Yeah.
but when I've been talking to a lot of my friends about it recently, what I've realized is that my natural way of thinking, like I would say when I'm authentically me, is actually biased more towards the what my friend Emma calls the divine masculine. Now, not to say I don't have the ego masculine too. I do. I've got it all. I'm working on it. But I do have this, and I can understand this where men are coming from. Like, I do have this, like, I want to set up the structure and then have the feminine shine, right?
Yeah.
And it's so
That's so
deep
it. That's so
and
it.
it's so powerful. And it's not that I don't want to shine in the world. It's that here's what's so funny. I'll just say this real quick. Even just my experience with it, um, I actually am brighter because through the process of allowing her, and I'm not trying to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. So we need both. And there
Yeah.
are men who are waking up who want to protect, who want to, and women who want to protect, who want to be in that divine
Yeah.
masculine, who have been waiting for women to get out of their masculine, right?
Right.
And so
Right.
that they can be in the feminine and be held and feel safe from that masculine container. And you're exactly right. That masculine container is like the cup and the glass here, and then the feminine is the water. And without the
Hmm.
masculine protection, the water goes everywhere. If you didn't have the cup, this water would create a big old mess. And that's where you see the like a woman who's not held, or a feminine that's not held in that masculine structure, emotions everywhere, feelings everywhere. And most likely it's that she hasn't felt safe to be able to do that. And so the masculine that creates that container and wants the feminine to just shine, like once you have a beautiful container that is safe, then you can do something with the water that's in the glass. You can
Hmm.
make something out of it. You can
Hmm.
build, it can become a beautiful river, contained by the sides. And so we're in a beautiful time in history where there's more and more understanding of this, and um, yeah, it's really exciting, actually.
Yeah.
Um, it's really exciting because I think we're going back to the way, like that again, it comes up to polarity, which is interesting, but we go back to the polarity that allows both of us um, to really be at our best.
Right. Yeah.
And it's
And
together, right? That is where the magic happens.
yes. And this might be a big answer, but I'm just fascinated by you, so I'm gonna ask it anyways. But um, how would a woman practice, even if she doesn't have that masculine container yet, but she's
Yeah.
preparing herself for it? What is one of the ways that she could practice that? And I would, because a lot of times, like I think women are even thinking they need that structure and safety in order to go out there and do better in their business and make money,
Yeah.
right? And
Well,
so how would
yeah, it
they
is true.
start that?
It is true. I mean, that's a great question because it's something that I really focused on for the past year.
Yeah.
And being like single during that time, um and you've got to build it within first. So you have
Yeah.
to be because we both, obviously have that masculine and feminine within. So I needed to make sure that I had the masculine side of myself fully healed and fully in place to hold myself. Because it's if you attract without having that in place, you're not going to attract a person that's fully in their power. You're going to attract still
Right.
the wounded, right?
Right.
Understanding what does allow you to feel safe in your own body, in your own environment, in your own home, and making sure that those things are in place. And so to think about that, the masculine is the structure, it's the container, it's the action.
Hmm.
So it's in the integrity. So if you're an entrepreneur, do you have structure in your business? Do you have structure in your family? Do you have structure in your investing, right? Like how you help
Hmm.
people with their money. And making sure that those things are all in place. Do you have emotional structure? Do you have support systems for yourself? And getting that all in place for yourself, your health and all of that, and focusing and knowing that you are okay on your own and you've got yourself, because the safety must come from within. And then what happens is then you focus on feeling safe yourself in your heart. And this, now we're moving into the feminine side, and it's
Hmm.
I've got myself no matter what. And it's not from a place of like muscle, like I don't need anyone. And but it is that you get to the place where you don't need anyone, but you desire your divine partner. And so then it's
Yeah.
through the desire, then you're calling in a different person now, because you've healed and you've created that masculine within yourself. And now you can allow yourself to flow, let go of the masculine, because once the container's set, it's set. Like you might have to do some upkeeping, but you've got it in place, right? And so then
Hmm.
from that place, you can go into your feminine and feel and call in that partner in
Mm.
their divine masculine then. And you've got to make sure that you are taking radical responsibility for the way that you're showing up, because you're always going to attract the partner that's at the level that you're currently vibrating at in frequency. So this is where, like, that takes time to step into that next level version of yourself, and then being very conscious in the relationship that you continue to um, communicate in a way that is coming from your goal achieved rather than your past, your programming, your
Mm.
paradigms, the way that you've operated in the past. Because if you do that, you're going to just get the same thing that you've always got,
Hmm.
right? Um, it's a very exciting time. And when you, like, literally trusting the timing, because when you open yourself up, the truth is that partner is right there. They've been doing their work. They've
Mm.
been, and they'll walk into your life with ease and grace.
Yeah, this is so beautiful. And it seems like, going back to, we talked about worthiness with women, that one of the ways that they would bring that closer to them is to see the whatever journey that you're going through now with regards to, what you were saying, like doing the work, even if you're single, doing the
Mhm.
work, that is worthy. That is the same worthy level as when you're in a relationship. Because I think a lot of times people are kind of, there's a deep sense of waiting. Okay, I'm preparing for this, but I haven't started the race yet. When in reality, it's an equal race, and I think it has to be an equal race. And I'm looking forward to the time when we don't feel the pressure that you need to be in a relationship. And I think that, like, as you say, I think people are definitely waking up to this, but I think that feeling that it's equal when you're single or not single, or you could even be in a relationship and it's not the perfect relationship, right? So you kind of have to conjure up your own sense of independence and, practice, even if you're in a current, a lot of people are in marriages that they just want to
Especially,
stay in. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would
So
say,
it's like,
especially because if you, like, you've got to be willing to change inside the relationship that's not working.
yes,
And
yes,
because if then, like, wouldn't you then question when you get out and you make all these
right.
changes? Well, couldn't that have, like, maybe that was the thing to have that relationship work? Like, it's all about you. It's all about you. It's all about me. Like, my life,
Yeah.
I'm the center of my own universe. You're the center of yours. So you just, like, it's really important. I think people leave relationships expecting it's going to be different over there,
Right. Of
but you're
course.
the same person. So how's it
Right.
going
Of
to be any
course.
different?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yes, absolutely. Well, and it really, this conversation also, I think, sheds light on really the difference when it comes to women and investing versus men, the different ways that they approach it, and the different reasons that they're there. And I can see this because I'm watching it from the inside, the program. But um, what's fascinating to me is that and this is just over again. I just keep hearing it. This keeps getting proven. So you have to go, good God, here we go one more time.
Mm.
uh, you know, they're investing from a place of, I want to know the returns. I want
Mm.
to know what I'm getting. I want to
Mhm.
know, like, show me the secret here, or the thing that, like, I need to see here, right? Give me the fastest, right?
Yeah.
And women are very much like, I want to know that I've made a really good decision, and I want it to feel effortless,
Mm.
and I want money to support me, and I
Mhm.
want to feel safe. And if you think
Mhm.
about it, there's a very feminine nature to that versus a very feminine nature that the man setting up the container. I need an investment account that has returns. Like, I get that. I get that. We do need
Yeah.
that, right? You don't want one that's losing money, then that's fine. So you got that over there. But then you want the investing account to feel safe, because if it's earning returns, but that could go away in 2 weeks, or it doesn't help your life in 2 weeks, then you're kind of like, well, why am I going to do it, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you just explained the masculine and feminine dichotomy right there. It's like men are more like logical, like
Yes.
do. I want to put this in and get this out. And it's important
Yes.
to have this.
Yes.
And it's if it's only one-sided, it's limiting. And so
Yeah,
then
because it gets you stuck in
yeah,
the matrix.
totally.
Yeah, it's like then you got to live in the matrix with this person, right?
Totally. Yeah. This is like the action and this is the outcome.
Yeah.
And then the feminine is like the feeling and more intuition, which is where the magic happens. But the magic can't happen without the container of the action of the like invest this to get this out. So that's the why both are needed. It's the yin and the yang, and
Yeah.
it's not always an equal and opposite. It flows, it goes back and forth. And that's why we have both energies within each of us as well. We've got to
Yeah.
have the masculine in our life and the feminine in our life. And same thing for men and women. And then when we come together, we each play the role that we're naturally, like you said, naturally inclined to play and allow that yin and yang to go back and forth within the relationship.
Yeah, and even the relationship with ourselves, because like if I look at myself, I am very much a feminine investor.
Mm.
I know the rules, and I look at returns, and I look at, all of that stuff, and I understand, I have the knowledge of it and can use the investing principles. But 80% is, I feel my way. I feel the market. I feel
Yeah, I love it.
money. And um
I love that. That's like a quote. That's a mic drop. I feel money.
yeah, I do. And
Yeah,
it's like I think that's probably like my biggest thing that I would
that's a
really want to
superpower.
depart to people is
Yeah.
how to feel money. And even this conversation has taken me further, because in order to teach people how to feel money, if I sort of think in my general life a little bit more to the masculine, yet I feel money very feminine. And I'm also very emotional. And I have the conversations and all that. So I have this feminine thing. The more I learn about the feminine nature, though, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
The better
totally.
container I can provide for the
Mhm.
people who come here, all the women who I feel are supposed to be multimillionaires in their power, out there, completely independent. And if they want to meet someone, man or woman, if
Mhm.
they want to meet someone and line up to them, then that's that other person's honor,
Yeah, absolutely. What a
you
gift.
know?
What a gift you are.
Oh my
Amazing.
God, you're teaching me. You're teaching me. You're always teaching me. Oh my God, I adore you.
Oh,
Well, thank you. Thank you for having this conversation. Thank you for being you, being so powerful. You are absolutely just the feminine nature out there, and you have the masculine as well, but you are just, to me, you're like an embodiment of it. And
thank you.
I feel very magic in your energy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, here's the thing. If anyone's listening and you might say, okay, well, I'd like to step more on my feminine side, it's something that I created, it's something that
Yeah.
I consciously um,
Hmm.
understood what it looked like when I was in the masculine and created that safety within, like I was saying, and then decided to embrace the feminine side. So it was something that I trained myself to be and created her. Like I literally wrote it out and I became her. And so if
Wow.
I can, all the listeners can.
Wow.
It's not something that's natural. It's something
Yes.
that's literally a decision.
Oh, thank you for freeing us from the constraints of like we can feel kind of what we are now, but thank you for freeing us from the constraints of we have to still be that
Totally.
because we might not. It's just like I'm saying, like I need to maybe step over a little bit to the edge over here to learn what I need to learn to then be in my next level of power. And I think
Yeah.
certain women are going to need that as well.
And there's not one that's better than the other. It's you get
Yes,
to make the
yes.
decision, right?
Yeah.
Which one is more preferable? Like, where do you find your own magic? And to your point, we still want to go back and forth. For me, my magic's in the feminine.
Yeah.
For me, that's where the magic synchronicities come in. Intuition's the strongest. Money flows. The relationships are, exactly what I desire. For me, that's where I prefer to be. So, and I needed to consciously decide to be that.
You
Yeah.
know, you're exactly right. I'll just say this one thing. I actually, the more that I look at it, I'm really being honest with myself. I think I suppressed a lot of my feminine nature as a child because I saw it as being weak. And so I didn't associate that with that as much, which I think is why I don't have that. What do these people think when I walk in the room? Because that's what a lot of the women in my life were all about, like what you look, and like I'm not saying any better or worse here, but I noticed about 2 years ago, after I got a divorce, I really started dressing different, much more
Mm.
feminine. I really enjoyed it and I sort of felt that power. And so I think it's important what you say is that there is not one that is better or worse, and that we actually came here with both, which gives us double the power, I think. It gives us the double the power in that where where are we in our life and what do we get to express through that, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and
Yeah.
allow yourself to decide based on the season of life that you're in. So you might find that there's a season where you are more in your masculine, like taking care of things,
Yeah.
logistical stuff. And then comes a season where you get to let go, surrender, be in
Hmm.
pleasure and joy. That's feminine.
I love it. Oh
Yeah.
my God. Well, how would people find you and talk to you and be in your energy and work with you? Because good God.
Thank you. Well, the best way is Instagram, and that's at the Danielle Amos. And I love to interact over on Instagram. We're quite active in the DMs, so send me a DM if this resonates with you. I'd love to meet you and find out what part of this conversation with the beautiful Elizabeth resonated, and then take it from there.
Okay, that's great. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All
It's an
right.
honor.
So let's talk about this. You want to grow your money, but given the circumstances you're in and the economy right now, you feel a bit uncertain, you feel stuck, and you're unsure what to do next. So let's change that right now. The Spiritual Investor Club is where wealth building meets energy, strategy, and community. And it isn't about dry financial talk or outdated investing advice that you don't understand, anyways. It's about learning how to make your money work for you without stress, confusion, or sacrifice. When you join, you get extended podcast conversations. We go deeper into everything that we talk about here: money, investing, energy, expansion, creating wealth on your terms. You'll also get journal prompts based on these episodes, which helps you go deeper into integrating the learning that you're picking up here. In addition to this, you get a Get Started Investing series, and it takes you from hesitant to empowered when it comes to your money. And you get one powerful stock pick each month so that you can start investing with confidence. And we do monthly hot seat sessions where I go on live and you can ask questions. You can get clear on things that you're unclear about in your life. And you can break through the financial roadblocks that have been keeping you stuck for, I don't know, years, decades, maybe even a lifetime. And you get to do this in a fun environment that's all in real time. The spiritual investor community, it's not like anything else out there. It's a network of like-minded spiritual investors who are growing their wealth together, which means you're not alone anymore. And I've saved the best for last because guess what? You can join right now for only $17 a month. Just go to thespiritualinvestor.com. I can't wait to meet you in there.